And we are here tonight to celebrate a movie that 24 years ago changed animated films forever. The very first all-computer-generated animated film, Pixar's original Toy Story. Anyone here see it in the theater like me? Oh, okay, cool. Before I bring out our guests, I want to thank tonight's sponsors. Our founding sponsor, SAG-AFTRA, along with Netflix, Walt Disney Studios, MGM, Alamo Drafthouse, and Ingenio RX. And our decor sponsor, Blueprint Studios, and our media sponsors, Los Angeles Magazine and KCRW. Now, please join me in welcoming to the stage Toy Story character designer Bob Pauly, art director Ralph Eggleston, the voice of Andy, John Morris, and the voice of Ham, John Ratzenberger.
What's up, man?
Thank you guys so much for being here. I keep saying this over and over again. The original Toy Story came out 24 years ago, because I almost can't believe it. The movie hasn't started yet. I just can't believe that. And you guys have put out 4 of these movies. You never mess it up, which is so impressive. They've all been, yeah, that's a lot of pressure. Could you ever have imagined?
Did you guys have to put out? That's what she said. I did.
It's been like a streak of quality movies, though. It's amazing. I mean, did you think back then when you were working on this movie, you'd be here almost 25 years later talking about it still?
Well, I don't think I was. I was so happy to have a job at that point, just working in the studio. But it's had amazing legs. It's been a great journey.
No, I thought it was going to be great.
Really?
No, I had no idea. It was a job. You showed up, you did your job, you went home.
It was a job, from what I understand, for 4 years. This went on just for the voice actors.
Yeah, so when I got the role of Andy, I was 7, and then I recorded until I was 11. Yeah. I don't know if it was yours that long?
I was 54.
Well, no.
I don't know, 25 years ago, whatever that is.
I mean, this really launched, this was the first Pixar full-length animated feature. It launched Pixar as we know it today. And you have been in, I think you have lent your voice to every Pixar movie, is that correct?
Oh, I didn't lend it, they paid me. I'm not lending anything. Yeah, 25 years ago, John Lasseter, God bless him, said he wanted to be the voice of a piggy bank. I said, absolutely, it was my dream. So, there you go, they kept me around.
Well, I mean, how did you become their good luck charm?
You know those Polaroids?
Yes.
Well, you take a Polaroid camera to a New Year's Eve party, and I don't want to say anything about Steve Jobs, he's passed, but... No, there's no reason, I have no idea. I make up a different story each time I'm asked that. But that's really a John Lasseter, Andrew Stanton question.
Yeah. It's so cool, though. I mean, you will always be associated with Pixar.
Yeah, I get a kick out of it. I do a lot of public speaking. And when I get up to the podium, especially at universities, I think every single person in this room grew up to the sound of my voice.
True.
Yeah, so I don't know what that means. I don't know if I can make any more money out of it, but that's just the way it is. And yours, same thing.
Absolutely.
Except your voice has changed over the years, so that's almost...
Yes, it has. Yeah.
Since you were 7. Yeah.
Yeah, so now I'm 34. So I think the thing that benefited me, actually, is I was always older in real life than Andy. So, for instance, when I recorded Toy Story 3, Andy was going to college, and I had been at college. So I knew what that feeling was like, packing up my room, starting the next chapter, becoming an adult. So I could kind of, reflect on that and go back there emotionally to the place I needed to go.
And correct me if I'm wrong, but didn't they make you sort of re-audition for Andy?
Yeah, well, I mean...
Sorry, guys.
No, which makes sense, actually. I mean, Pixar loves continuity. We love continuity in the films, and You know, I think they just literally need to be like, we have to hear your voice.
Sure.
Because of, you know,
Yeah.
especially between, I think, Toy Story and Toy Story 2, because my voice had changed. You had to like just see, you know, is it still a fit? And yeah.
Yeah, I mean, hey, it worked out, so
Yeah.
no hard feelings.
Right.
Well, the acting's such an important part.
It is.
Because, you know, I think we've done some temp voices occasionally at the studio, and you're exhausted after it. I don't know how you guys do it. It's challenging, and the animators depend on you to deliver.
Well, you don't know how we do the voices?
Well, because it's performance. It's performance driven, and we're gaining the animation, the emotion, everything from it. And when you hear a voice like yours and some of the Annie Potts and some of the others in the film, it's on its own, it's spectacular. And then the animators just build off of that. So it's a combination of animation, animators acting plus the voice talent. So spectacular work.
I really want to ask Bob and Ralph, can you kind of tell us about the process of creating these worlds and these characters? I mean, how did things sort of develop over the years, and what does like a character artist do exactly?
Well, we're trying to figure out what these characters are for the film, and we're making toys, so we had to do toy research. We literally did go to a bunch of toy stores and buy a lot of toys, and you know, for me, I get to be paid to draw toy characters, and okay, I'm in. This is so much fun, and so I think it's really understanding the materials they're made of, how they're built. The scale is everything too, because it's a world in which animation can take you places we can't go normally. So as a toy that's 6 or 12 inches tall, that's important. All the textures are richer, the details are different, and the perspective is different. So
We were talking about this earlier, and it's kind of like a Lady and the Tramp. People think of, oh, it's a cute film about dogs. No, it's actually a film told from the dog's point of view, and that's Toy Story as well. It's not a film about toys. It's a film told from the toy's point of view. So it was the easiest thing to remember, and yet the hardest thing to do was every question that we had to answer had to be filtered through. That's great, but what would it be like if you were a toy made of plastic or brass or porcelain? And that put a different spin on it and really gave a lot of really great ideas to bounce off of.
So for your research, you literally got to play with toys.
yeah, I
That's
take
like
them
the
apart.
greatest job.
It's not bad. I mean, seriously, we were all kind of toy geeks anyway, and so it was challenging. Like you're just sitting there drawing and playing with toys all day. I go home and explain this to my wife, and she was not quite sympathetic about the hard day. So, but it's what you need to do. You need to get into those characters, understand the materials and how they would behave, and they have limitations. Certain toys can't do certain things because they're, you know, like Potato Head is neurotic because he's always losing his parts, and so that's a funny aspect of the toy. So you want to capitalize on what the toy or the item itself can bring to the character.
Yeah, they're not little men in toy suits. They are toys. You know.
Well, sometimes they break a little bit.
Yeah.
So you had to experiment with that too.
Absolutely.
So Bob, as a character designer, I mean, did you design all the characters, or you had some say in all of them?
We both did a little bit of a lot of things. He did some set work, I did some character work, and we would trade off.
I mean, this is half the art department in Toy Story 4. There was Tia Kreider and Bill Cohn, and there's Ralph and I.
That was it.
And so we shared a lot of stuff, and a lot of story came up with some of the characters. So we were just building off of that, supporting what they've designed. Others, you know, like when we did Buzz, it looked a little different when I came on, so we restyled them and kind of did all our toy research and gave him the buttons and all the cool things that he needed. And so the best thing about Pixar is it's a collaborative process, and every day there's new problems, and it's a blast to kind of solve them with people that you love to work with. So it's great.
And it's more fun. I mean, it's really hard to make the friendly stuff look good and appealing.
Yeah.
It's definitely more fun, and in some ways easier to do the darker stuff, which is why Sid's house was so much fun. For me, I was learning the process of doing computer animation. I didn't have a computer. I didn't know what it was. I mean, I did, but you know what I mean. I drew. I did some live action and some animation, and but figuring out what that was. But it was a lot of fun to figure that out. Once we knew how to do what we thought we knew how to do it after we finished a lot of Andy's room and some of the toy designs, and then we had to go into Sid's house and figure that out. And but it was a lot more fun. because it's just, I don't know, it's more fun to do the twisted stuff.
And we were kind of more like Sid anyway. I blew up my toys. I lit them on fire. I took them apart. It was super fun.
Steve Jobs was giving a tour through the studio one day to some Silicon Valley people, I'm sure really important people too. And I'm on the front porch with a magnifying glass trying to burn a hole in a doll's head to see what it might look like.
That's amazing. For the actors, I'm really curious, because I know you don't actually get a script, do you? Because you're recording over a period of years and they're changing lots of things. I'm sort of curious, you keep coming back. At what point, or was there a point that you knew you were onto something special?
You go ahead.
Okay. So to answer the first part of your question, I don't know if John had a similar experience, but I would get scenes. So I'd come in, and then we'd focus on a scene during that recording session, or 2 scenes. So it was nice and focused, and sometimes it would be sent ahead, but sometimes not at all. And then it's really the directors there who are setting the stage for you in terms of this is where we are in the story, this is how we're envisioning it. If there were some storyboards or any sort of art or rendering, they would show that, which was really helpful and at that stage. And then, do you want to add?
Sure. Off of your comment before that it must be so difficult for the actors. It's not hard work. It really isn't. Loading cement bags on a railroad car is hard work.
Yeah.
This is not hard work because Pixar does all the heavy lifting.
Yeah.
Because whether it's John or Andrew or Peter, the director, they're also the writer. And so as the writer, they've been working on it for 3 years. That really is their baby. So they know every comma, every semicolon, every sigh, every bit of laughter, and the range of each character coupling up in a train to the next character. So all I do is just do what they ask me to do. And it's a piece of cake.
But you're naturally good, that's the thing. It comes across really well.
It is hard. I have so much respect for voiceover artists because I had no idea how hard it was until I actually tried doing it.
See, I don't think there's such a thing as a voiceover artist.
Voiceover actor, would you say?
Actor, artist.
Just actor.
I don't believe that there is such a thing.
Mm-hmm.
You're an actor. And so I guess maybe I'm just too old school, but if you're an actor, you should be able to do voiceover, stage, television, radio, tap dance, a little bit of singing. And if you can't do that, don't call yourself an actor.
Agreed. Can you tap dance?
Yeah.
I can tap dance too.
I was on Dancing with the Stars.
That's right, you were.
How soon we forget.
Sorry, there's been 25 seasons of that show.
But it's only because I'm old school, and there's probably half the audience doesn't know who these people are. James Cagney.
Oh, yeah.
Look at some of his films and the tap dancing he did in Yankee Doodle Dandy. It's incredible. I don't know any actor today who could do that.
I'm also curious though, when you're doing voiceover work, can you show up in your pajamas? You don't have to worry about hair and makeup?
Well, I did once turn up in my bedclothes, but I don't wear pajamas. So security was called right away. With a big burlap sack. No, I don't think, just out of respect, you show up,
Yeah.
shaven.
Look presentable
Yeah.
and professional. And, yeah.
Do you guys design characters with actors in mind? Did you know Tom Hanks or Tim Allen was already on board for this?
I think we knew they were on board, but we don't necessarily draw based upon the performer. It's more about the persona of the character.
You're trying to find the character, and the voice is a big part of that, and the needs of the story, and the limitations of the medium as well, at least at the time. Now we can pretty much do anything we set our minds to. But at the time, a lot of the folks we were working with on the production were writing the software and building the hardware to be able to make the film at all, while taking direction from us as to how to actually build it and design it. It's a miracle it got done. It really is.
And actually, that's a big point because nowadays, all the technical folks are incredible artists, and all the artists are really good at all the technical tools. Back then, it was more of a divide. There was all these PhDs and really smart technical folks.
Several people had several degrees in theoretical physics and mathematics.
And when
But
they said
there's no visual skills.
And when they said they were a rocket scientist, there really was a rocket scientist working there. But they had a sense of what they were doing in terms of creating the software and building this thing. So they're busy on their own problems, but we were trying to design the art. And part of the big challenge of the movie was learning how to talk to each other, how to communicate, to give them instructions, because we're not drawing a model sheets so someone can draw the character. We're drawing plans in a sense that they can build a character and then set it up.
Coding it into the computer, you know. Brilliant people, wonderful to work with.
But that grew, and I think over the years we have this amazing relationship now, so that we kind of answer each other's thoughts. So.
I always get the sense that artists, especially like yourselves, were left alone by their parents. That the parents were helicopter parents and said, "Oh, here, to try this color, do this."
Any truth to that?
Not me.
Well, you had helicopter parents?
Me? No, I didn't. No.
You'd come back when the street lights are on. We were going doing our thing.
That's my point.
But most of the time we were probably like, I don't know about you, but I was drawing a lot of the time. Either on my bike or drawing.
I would make I learned how to make Super 8 movies, so I was making Super 8 films and animation and live action and whatever I could. Plus, and if I wasn't doing that, I was sneaking from theater to theater to theater to go see like 4 or 5 movies a day.
Or blowing up G.I. Joes. That was the other thing.
I think there's a lot
Yes,
to be.
I did sell fireworks.
There's a lot to be said for our generation of free-range children.
Yes.
Right? They just let us go. And
What character did end up being like the most challenging? I don't want to say difficult, but the hardest one to sort of design and give life to? Or went through the most changes?
I mean, most changes. That's good. They were all problematic, and they were all fun to do because it was fun to solve all these tough problems. I think here's one I know technically was one of the most challenging characters is Ham.
Really? You wouldn't think like a piggy bank would be that challenging.
One of the most technical challenging characters was Ham, and it looks like the simplest character. Ralph designed him, and it's a charming design, but they had to figure a way to make the arms attach in these invisible fillets, I guess, and how
Rotating fillets.
Rotating fillets, and Evan Osby came up with this great way of doing it. And even when we were working on Toy Story 3, they were having trouble doing it. This is 15 years after the first one or so, and it's just because it's a very technical problem in terms of making it look seamless and having the texture work. So, it seems like the simplest character.
I would have thought that would be the simplest one.
Yeah.
That's the funny thing about computer animation in general is we both did hand-drawn animation. Things that are easier in hand-drawn animation are more difficult in computer and vice versa. So, and then one of the other bigger challenges we had were the humans in Toy Story. We had great voice actors, and that really helped carry the show. The more realistic you try and make a human, they have this thing called the uncanny valley, where innately, as an audience member and as a human being, you know how a human moves and acts, and if it isn't just right, it feels off-putting. So the idea of caricaturing them a little helps kind of sand off some of those edges, and of course the great acting. But the trick was for us is that, and we weren't always as successful in some of our films as others, but if they looked like toys, it was a problem because we're making a film about toys. So it was tricky.
But we were not out to do real live action characters they're humans, because it would look weird and it's a huge challenge. So we were trying to stylize them and make a believable world, but it wasn't human story, it was Toy Story. So we let the humans to the end, and it was concentrating mostly on the toys. Absolutely. But they're really difficult to do, and you can tell between 1 and 2, which isn't very much time, like 4 years, there's not a lot of improvement. From 2 to 3, they got a lot better, and 9 years after 3 and 4, the humans I think we've kind of got it down now, and they're not creepy.
No, Toy Story 4 has much creepier.
There's other
yes.
creepy things.
For those of you who've seen it, you know exactly what I'm talking about. The humans are not the creepy ones in that. As actors, you don't really. Often you play a role and then you're sort of done with it. You see it a year later. What's it been like to go back like every few years and get to revisit these characters? I mean, especially Andy, who's grown up in front of our eyes.
Yeah, I mean, it's, I've played Andy for the majority of my life because it's been 24 years and I'm 34. And, I think when I talk with fans and they talk about, I grew up watching Toy Story and now my kids are watching Toy Story 3 and 4 and, and to hear about kind of the multi-generational impact over all these years is, incredibly significant. And I think it's been an honor for me to play Andy and to be, the boy who owns the toys, and then to pass the baton to Bonnie and to others as they kind of come in Toy Story 4. And, with Toy Story 4, what I was kind of amazed by is how the universe kind of grew a little bit, and with new toys and new humans, and yet it still felt very true to, the heart of the story and the characters, and it was such a beautiful balance of that.
When you were 7 years old, did you even understand this story? I mean, how was it explained to you?
So at first I didn't understand. I mean, my mom said to me, "Oh, you got the role of Andy, and it's going to be the first animated film made with computers." And I was just like, "It's going to be on the computer?" Or I was 7, I didn't understand. But then working with the creative folks at Pixar, and again, especially the directors who I worked most closely with, saying, situating you, and this is what we envision, and then seeing all the pieces come together, and seeing, it starts to sink in, like, this is what this is going to be. And then I remember seeing it on a bus, and that was when I was like, okay, this is going to be actually big, really big, because it's on a bus, and it's, yeah, once it's on a bus, and it's at bus stops, and it's on billboards.
The Disney marketing machine,
Yeah, I mean, it's gonna be, it's not just like a little indie, it's gonna be big, yeah.
It's on shirts and shoes.
It's on shirts and shoes and
Socks?
Yeah, socks and yeah.
And John, for you, you record all your stuff solo, right? It's not like, I imagine that you're in a room with Tom Hanks and Tim Allen and you're all improvising, but it's actually just you in a booth, isn't it?
Yeah, I go by myself. But you do it too, don't you?
Yep.
Yeah, we're all by ourselves.
Yeah.
That seems like such a challenge to me, and like, when do you finally meet your castmates? Probably at the premiere.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then you see it all put together. I mean, that's got to be amazing.
Yeah, it's kind of like the doctor takes your appendix out. If they know what they're doing, you'll be okay. You'll wake up in the morning. And so I look at Pixar the same way. These guys know what they're doing. I don't have a thought about it. I go record and I go home.
Of all the characters you played in the Pixar universe, do you have a personal favorite?
I like P.T. Flea.
That's my favorite! Loves life.
Because he's just so avaricious. He had to sell his grandmother for a nickel. It's just funny to me because there are really people like that out there.
Yeah.
And P.T. Flea, it's obviously P.T. Barnum. But P.T. Barnum was the mayor of my hometown.
You're kidding!
Way back when.
Is this Connecticut?
Yeah, Bridgeport, Connecticut.
Wow, which is also has many honors from what I understand.
What's that?
It has many honors.
Yeah, it was, we were 3 years in a row the murder capital of the United States. So there's a lot going on there. That's why I'm here.
You need to get away.
Robert Mitchum was from Bridgeport, too.
Was what?
From Bridgeport, Robert Mitchum.
It's old school.
Brian Dunahee.
Wow, lots of great character actors came from there.
Oh, we had a whole
Churning them
farm
out.
of them, yeah.
So once again, I'm going to say 24 years since the original Toy Story came out. What do you think is the secret to its enduring appeal? I mean, aside from the fact that they're great movies, I don't even want to say like it's the best animated, it's one of the greatest animated movies of all time. It's just one of the best movies of all time. But people just keep coming back for more. Aside from the fact that they're good, what do you think? What chord does it strike?
Well, it's the characters. I mean, you believe in them. They're imperfect. They have problems, and you kind of can see yourself in them, and they also have very strong personalities. So you can get people together and each act out a part in the movie. You know exactly who Ham is, and Buzz, and Rex, and so they've got these clear personalities. And I think for like Toy Story 4, it's kind of like, for us, it was a little bit like a family reunion, because you get to be back with your friends again. And so I think that's enduring. You care about these characters.
But you also have to mention that you work how many years just on the story?
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think I started end of 13, beginning of 14 or something. So
Yeah,
it's been a
that's
long
why
time.
Pixar is Pixar.
I remember reading that, I don't know who said it at Pixar, but someone said story is king.
Well, it's storytelling is key.
Storytelling is king. Yeah, so it's like,
Yeah, we do everything to service the story and the emotions. So
Yeah.
when we are building characters, it's what does the story need? And you're doing, like Ralph did all the color and design in the first one, and it's all emotionally based. And it was about what the story needs.
It's really crawling, like figuring out what the characters are, and it's really great when you get the actors soon enough to be able to hear what they're going to do with it. So you kind of crawl through that idea and start designing, well, then what would their surroundings be like, and why would it be that way? And it's really great fun. It's a lot of work.
And you're not afraid to throw out ideas even when you've completed them. We were talking earlier, I had heard about an early draft where Woody was kind of a bad guy, and you went through major changes, and I'm sure there are lots of scenes that you've recorded. I'm just out of curiosity, what were some of like the rejected ideas for Toy Story?
Boy, there were a lot. I'm not even kidding. The way we develop our films is, we have an idea for a story and characters. We workshop it like a play every 3 months. They have to have a screening of our in-house. We have a screening of our film. And they tear it apart, put it back together, and they tear it apart, put it back together every 3 months. So you can imagine that. I would honestly say that if you were to take all the sequences that were storyboarded during the course of making the film and string them together, the film would be 4 times as long, maybe 5. So, yeah, it's a lot of work.
It's very iterative, and you have to have kind of a tough skin, because you're in art, you're presenting the characters and design work every week in an art review, and what might work one week is going to be great, but 2 weeks from then, the story's changed and it's out. So, but it's always supporting the story. So there's been some great characters that I would love to see in the movie, but
I'm waiting for an Alien spin-off.
Oh yeah,
Just the
we were
aliens.
talking about that earlier. There were 2 on Toy Story. Well, one was Woody was a complete jerk.
That's right.
And it was just unlikable. But one of the other ones was, and I know it seems inevitable and right in the final film, is Pizza Planet, but originally that was Pizza Hut. And it was a miniature golf restaurant place. It was very strange.
And you had to change it.
Oh yeah, a lot of work had been put into it.
And that was around the time when it was a story session, I think, at Disney, and somebody came up with an alien character, and all of a sudden everything went space, so the Pizza Planet fit
With
perfectly.
Buzz Lightyear, it was staring us in the face.
Yeah.
And we didn't see it. Yeah, it's crazy.
well, I'll just add, just from a voiceover perspective, in terms of, kind of developing character and characterization. When I came back to play Andy in Toy Story 3, I remember spending a lot of time actually with Lee Unkrich, the director, talking about, so Andy's a teenager now. What kind of teenager is he? And we know he's a good guy, and he has a good heart, and he loves his toys, but he's also a teenager. So, when Molly's in his room going through his stuff, that's a problem for a teenager, the older brother. But he doesn't yell at her, he puts a we just took a lot of time to figure that out, and I didn't want to, there's a line, Molly, don't touch my stuff, or, out of my room. And it's like, he still, cares about his sister, and just finding that balance.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I so appreciate the care put into these movies. I think it's dark enough, so we're going to start the screening. But I want to thank you guys so much for being here. Thank the Foundation.
So we were just an excuse for the sun to go down.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, we're just killing time, basically. For those of you who don't know, the SAG-AFTRA Foundation is a nonprofit that offers a vital safety net to performing artists all around the country. You can subscribe to the SAG-AFTRA Foundation's YouTube channel to access thousands of conversations just like this one. And in addition, the foundation produces a children's literacy program called Story Online, where actors volunteer their time and talent to read to children online. We're going to take a look at some of the SAG-AFTRA programs, and then we're going to go to Infinity and Beyond. Thank you.